In the grand theater of American politics, where policy decisions often ripple out like shockwaves from a distant explosion, few moves have been as quietly devastating as the introduction of a seemingly innocuous $250 visa fee. Implemented under the auspices of the Big Beautiful Bill on July 4, 2025, a date laden with ironic symbolism, celebrating independence while erecting new barriers. This fee targets visitors from countries without visa waiver agreements. At first glance, it might seem like a minor administrative tweak, a drop in the bucket for a nation boasting a $1.9 trillion tourism economy. But as we've seen in the months since, this policy has morphed into a full-blown economic catastrophe, siphoning away billions in revenue and leaving once vibrant cities grappling with empty streets and shuttered dreams. The U.S. is poised to lose a staggering $12.5 billion in international tourism spending this year alone, with Canadian arrivals plummeting by over 30% last month and a 50% decline among certain visitor groups compared to 2024. This isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet, it's about the human stories, the lost jobs, and the fading allure of the American dream on the global stage. As a political commentator who spent 2 decades dissecting the intricacies of U.S. policy, from the trade wars of the Trump era to the immigration reforms under Biden and beyond, I've witnessed how decisions made in the marbled halls of Washington can decimate livelihoods thousands of miles away. This visa fee, ostensibly designed to bolster border security and generate revenue, has instead exposed the fragility of America's tourism-dependent economy. It's a classic case of unintended consequences, where a policy aimed at protectionism ends up isolating the nation further. Tourists from around the world, once eager to experience the neon glow of Las Vegas or the bustling energy of New York, are now pausing at the threshold, weighing the added cost against the hassle. No thanks, not worth it, they mutter, opting instead for more welcoming destinations like Europe or Asia. And as these visitors vanish, so too do the ripple effects. Hotels slashing rates, restaurants dimming lights early, theme parks closing attractions prematurely, and Airbnb hosts throwing in the towel. This slowdown isn't seasonal, it's systemic, a warning flare that America's cities, long reliant on global wanderlust, are teetering on the edge. Let's begin our journey in the sun-baked expanses of Tucson, Arizona, a city that has long positioned itself as a jewel in the desert crown of American tourism. Nestled amid the saguaro cacti and rugged mountains, Tucson has thrived on its unique blend of natural beauty, cultural heritage, and outdoor adventures. In 2024, it was on an upward trajectory, with airport expansions underway and a surge in international visitors drawn to its stargazing tours, historic missions, and vibrant arts scene. But the visa fee's arrival on July 4th acted like a sudden sandstorm, obscuring that momentum and leaving the city in a haze of uncertainty. Visit Tucson, the local tourism authority, reported a harrowing 32% drop in foreign travelers almost immediately, a statistic that reverberated through boardrooms and back alleys alike. Hotels, once buzzing with European hikers and Asian families seeking the Southwest's mystique, now echo with emptiness. Gift shops, stocked with turquoise jewelry and Native American crafts, gather dust as tour buses idle in lots, their drivers nursing coffees instead of navigating scenic routes. The human toll is palpable. Nearly 40% of tourism businesses have resorted to layoffs or temporary shutdowns, not due to shifting tastes or global events, but because the demand simply evaporated. Imagine a hotel manager in Tucson's historic downtown, staring at rows of unoccupied rooms that were booked solid last year for conventions and student delegations. These aren't abstract losses, they're families struggling to make ends meet, with servers, housekeepers, and guides suddenly out of work. The city's economy, which leaned heavily on these influxes, now faces a blunt reality. When tourists are priced out, the infrastructure built to welcome them becomes a burdensome relic. Airports that expanded runways in anticipation of growth now see those investments languish, a stark reminder of how federal policies can undercut local ambitions. Politically, this hits at the heart of Arizona's identity, a border state where immigration and tourism intersect. Governors and senators have long touted the economic benefits of cross-border travel, yet this fee, pushed through amid heated debates on national security, undermines that narrative. It's a policy that plays well in campaign speeches about securing our borders, but in practice it alienates allies and drains coffers. As Tucson grapples with this new normal, one can't help but wonder, if a city built on resilience is faltering, what does that portend for less fortified locales? Transitioning northward, The story echoes in Spokane, Washington, a hidden gem in the Pacific Northwest known for its riverside charm, outdoor recreation, and burgeoning role as a hub for international education. Spokane has always punched above its weight in tourism, drawing Canadian day trippers, European adventurers, and a steady stream of J-1 visa holders who fill seasonal roles in resorts and festivals. But this summer, the visa fee's shadow has lengthened over the city, collapsing programs that once infused vitality into its economy. Inside Higher Ed's reporting from May 2025 paints a grim picture, a 13% drop in J-1 visas issued compared to the previous year, translating to 7,000 fewer exchange visitors nationwide. In Spokane, this shortfall hit like a sudden frost, freezing the hospitality sector in its tracks. Over 60% of hotels and resorts reported severe staffing shortages, with managers donning aprons to clean rooms or man front desks themselves. The summer hostess ranks, typically bolstered by eager international students, emptied out, leaving festivals that once drew crowds for music, arts, and riverfront activities to fizzle into obscurity. This isn't merely a logistical hiccup, it's a chokehold on the city's seasonal lifelines. Airbnb hosts who relied on these workers to maintain properties for tourists saw cancellations spike as visitors sensed the disarray. Local revenue shrank overnight, affecting everything from craft breweries to outdoor gear shops. Politically, Spokane's plight underscores a broader tension in American immigration policy. The J-1 program, intended to foster cultural exchange and bolster the workforce, has been inadvertently throttled by fees that deter participants from modest backgrounds. In a state like Washington, where tech giants and universities thrive on global talent, this policy feels like self-sabotage. Lawmakers in Congress, debating the merits of the big beautiful bill, likely didn't foresee how it would gut rural economies dependent on these seasonal boosts. Yet here we are, with resort operators sounding alarms and community leaders scrambling for solutions. Spokane serves as a cautionary tale, illustrating how a simple fee can unravel the threads of economic interdependence, leaving cities silent and states echoing with lost opportunities. From the evergreen forests of Spokane, our narrative drifts southward to the sultry rhythms of New Orleans, Louisiana, a city synonymous with jazz, Mardi Gras, and unbridled festivity. New Orleans has always been more than a destination. It's an experience, a melting pot where French, African, and Creole influences blend into a cultural gumbo that draws millions annually. Yet in mid-April 2025, as the visa fee began to bite, the city's tourism board, New Orleans and Company, confirmed a sharp decline in interest from Canadian visitors, exacerbated by trade rhetoric that amplified perceptions of unwelcomeness. The French Quarter Festival, a beloved spring event that showcases local music, food, and street performers, bore the brunt. Revenues slumped by 42%, with international attendance falling around 35%. Hundreds of jobs for performers, drivers, and vendors evaporated as acts canceled and crowds thinned. Hotel occupancy rates plummeted, restaurants dimmed early, and the iconic bus tours along Bourbon Street ground to a halt. Operators scrambled, inviting Canadian media to counter the narrative, but the damage was etched in stone. New Orleans lost millions in economic activity tied to its core industries: food, music, and lodging. The city that prides itself on liveliness turned muted, its streets less crowded with the laughter of foreign accents. This collapse isn't isolated, it reflects a systemic erosion of trust. Politically, in a state where tourism is a lifeline post-Hurricane Katrina recovery, this policy revives old wounds. Democratic and Republican leaders alike have championed rebuilding through global appeal, yet the fee's implementation, tied to broader immigration crackdowns, undermines that progress. It's a reminder of how executive actions can override local needs, turning a city of celebration into one of quiet desperation. As festival planners pivot to domestic audiences, the question lingers: can New Orleans reclaim its glow, or will this mark the end of its era as a global party hub? The warnings from New Orleans find stark confirmation in Kansas City, Missouri, one of the proud host cities for the 2026 FIFA World Cup, now bracing for a shortfall that could redefine its future. Kansas City has invested heavily in this global spectacle, upgrading stadiums, expanding transit, and courting international fans with promises of Midwestern hospitality. Local officials and tourism boards projected a $220 million loss in international visitor revenue, directly attributable to the visa fee. Preliminary data from travel operators shows group tours from South America and Africa dropping by 47%, Key demographics like families from Argentina, Ghana, and Nigeria who canceled en masse, citing the cost hike as the final straw. Travel agents in Sao Paulo and Accra reported widespread withdrawals, turning what was meant to be a flood of visitors into a trickle. Hotels that upgraded for record footfall now face half-empty rooms. Merchants who stocked soccer memorabilia watch inventory gather dust. This isn't just an economic hit, it's reputational dynamite for a city positioning itself on the world stage. Politically, the World Cup was billed as a bipartisan triumph, a chance to showcase American unity and openness. Yet the visa policy, enacted amid debates on fiscal responsibility and security, has closed doors it was supposed to fling wide. Senators from Missouri who've lobbied for infrastructure funds now face constituents furious over squandered investments. The road to 2026, once paved with excitement, is now one of damage control, highlighting how short-sighted policies can jeopardize long-term gains. If Kansas City can't fill its stadiums, what does that say about America's ability to host the world? Shifting our gaze to the East Coast, New York City emerges as the epicenter of this crisis, a metropolis that has long embodied the American promise, drawing dreamers from every corner of the globe. The World Travel and Tourism Council's May 2025 projection of a $12.5 billion national loss hits hardest here, with NYC tourism plus conventions warning of 2 million fewer international visitors, equating to a $4 billion drop in spending. This cascade affects hotels, museums, Broadway shows, and even sidewalk performers who rely on tourist generosity. As revenue dried up, the city slashed its international marketing budget, creating a vicious cycle. Less visibility leads to fewer bookings, which in turn justifies more cuts. From Fifth Avenue's luxury boutiques, once buoyed by foreign shoppers, to Flushing's bustling markets, the decline is evident in ghost hours and half-sold tickets. Cab drivers idle longer, guides shorten tours, and small businesses teeter on closure. Politically, New York, a bastion of progressive values, finds itself at odds with federal policies that echo isolationist tendencies. Mayors and governors have historically pushed for open borders to fuel economic growth, yet this fee, rooted in conservative security agendas, exposes fissures in the system. It's a reputational slip for a city that thrives on global attention, where silence in Times Square signals deeper troubles. As Broadway dims and museums echo, New York risks losing its magnetic pull, a loss that reverberates through the nation's cultural heart. Continuing southward, Orlando, Florida stands as a tourism titan now ensnared in a staffing nightmare that threatens its very essence. Known worldwide for its theme parks, resorts, and family-friendly magic, Orlando has depended on J-1 visa holders to power its seasonal workforce. This year's sharp visa drop drained that pool, leaving businesses scrambling, many short half their usual student labor. Theme parks canceled shows, dinner theaters locked doors early, and guests endured interminable waits as staff juggled impossible shifts. The juggernaut of fun ground to a halt, with frustrated visitors spreading negative reviews that erode Orlando's reputation. Politically, in a swing state like Florida, where tourism drives billions, this policy clashes with pro-business rhetoric. Governors who've courted international investment now face backlash from operators who see the fee as a barrier to growth. Orlando isn't just missing workers, it's losing its sparkle, a microcosm of how visa restrictions can dim the lights on America's entertainment capital. From Orlando's chaos, we pivot to Chicago, Illinois, an architectural marvel and cultural powerhouse now mired in cancellations. By early May 2025, hotel lobbies hushed with iconic tours running at half capacity and boat operators docking early. Group bookings vanished, cultural exchanges shelved, and nonprofits canceled programs amid sponsor pullouts. Chicago, which welcomed over 55 million visitors last year, feels muted, its streets less alive with global chatter. This breakdown stems from eroded trust, where less traffic begets fewer promotions, spiraling into obscurity. Politically, in the heartland of Democratic strongholds, this highlights tensions between federal immigration stances and urban economies. Leaders who've championed diversity now contend with policies that stifle it, risking Chicago's vanishing from international itineraries. Miami, Florida follows suit, a global magnet losing its pull. Google Travel Trends noted a 15% drop in searches, with service revenues shrinking 20 to 35%. Resorts cut staff, no-shows rose, and the buzz faded despite 2024's $7 billion haul. This links to visa friction, leaving Miami hollow in peak season. Politically, as a gateway to Latin America, Miami embodies the contradictions of U.S. policy, welcoming rhetoric undercut by barriers. The hangover is real, with no quick fix for a city built on glamour. The pain extends to Los Angeles, California, where Hollywood's shine dims. Tour bookings fell 37%, film production tanked, and international attendance dropped 40%. Streets quiet, jobs fade as LA's prestige wanes. In a state of innovation, this policy feels regressive, clashing with California's open arms ethos. As lights dim, the beating heart of entertainment slows. Finally, San Francisco, California frays its Asian ties. Visa drops of 20% slashed student enrollments by 22%, closing shops in Chinatown like century-old Sam Wo. The city loses its global heartbeat. Politically in tech's epicenter, this isolates America from talent, echoing broader debates on competitiveness. America's icons silence, not from external threats, but a $250 fee. Is this temporary, or the world turning away? Have you visited these cities? Would the price deter you? Your voice could shape the future.